Alright, so I apologize for all of these tabs that I have up here. I like to keep a lot of tabs open, which can be confusing, but some of them you can just ignore and the rest of them I will explain. So I wanted to start off by saying which cards I'm going to use, and I had the Queen of Clubs, I believe, and so that means that I have a small class and they bring their own device, but that also means that I have multiple students for whom English is not their native language. So I'm going to consider those when I start discussing more of what I'm going into. And the guideline that I chose was to minimize threats and distractions. And some of the key considerations for that were, how does this help learners meet the goal? How does this account for the variability of all learners? And do learners feel safe in the class or in the learning environment? So, with that being said, this kind of goes a little bit more in detail with my checkpoint, and so it's just a lot about making sure that the needs of my students are met and that they feel comfortable and safe sharing in the classroom. So some ideas that it gave that I'm not going to use because they gave them were just to show, just to have a lot of visuals around the room and different ways for them to know when the schedule is changing or when they're moving on to a new task. Something that I thought of though was using different colors. So say they were working on an assignment and having green means go, you can work on the assignment for whatever, however long, and then once it flips to yellow, that means start wrapping up your ideas, maybe take 5-6 more minutes and work on that, and then once it gets to red, they would stop. So just to have visual cues along with, if I'm explaining something or telling them they have 5 more minutes, they can see it too, that they have 5 more minutes based on the color that is there. So I hope that makes sense. But one thing that I really wanted to focus on was creating a safe environment for the students, and a website that I thought was really helpful for that was Color in Colorado, and there is a whole part that says how to create a welcoming classroom environment. And so under this, I thought it was important just to realize some of the things that the students might go through. So acceptance and culture shock are two really big things that we need to be aware of and to kind of keep in mind when we have these students in the classroom and we're trying to teach them and help them learn best. So something that I thought was really helpful was posting the daily schedule just so they know, because they might not understand all of the language that we speak. So I think it would be helpful to have pictures. I know that was also under here, but I really like that idea. Another one was just having, inviting their culture into the classroom. And so that could be shown in so many different ways. But one thing that I thought was just having them do like a show and tell and bring something that really matters and that means something to them, just so that they know that what's important to them is important to me and to the classroom. And maybe just having like stories about their culture could be another thing that they might really enjoy, just so it's not books that don't relate to them at all. So really expanding the classroom library. Another thing would be to label classroom objects in both languages. And I think that this is not only beneficial for the English language learners, but also students who are English speaking. They can learn a new language, which I think is beneficial for both students. So those are some important things that I thought that would really help to create a safe environment for the students, and just so they know that they're welcomed and that they matter. Because being in a new school when you're an English language learner can be difficult. It's already difficult starting a new grade, even if you're not an English language learner. So with that being said, because my students have their own devices, I found on Edutopia that students can, something that's beneficial for ELL learners is to have blogs. And I thought this was a really good idea because they can kind of do what they want with these blogs and make it in a way that makes the most sense to them. So whether that be posting a lot of pictures or posting videos, or maybe they like to write a lot, they can make this blog in a way that makes the most sense to them. And another thing that I think is beneficial is the community that it can build, because students can comment on one another's blogs, they can ask questions, they can share similar stories. And so I think if some kids are afraid to kind of speak out loud, if they might not know all the words in English and they might be afraid of getting it wrong, they can type it out and type what they can, and just feel a little bit more comfortable doing so, knowing that they're not speaking in front of a classroom and they're not going to be laughed at or whatever for getting a word wrong. But I guess that's also something to establish in the beginning of the year, just to make sure that students are supportive of one another and that they really have that classroom community. So like I said, it's just important for maybe storytelling or commenting on one another and just kind of learning more about one another. So that is what I found to be useful, and that.